mobile techs, and parts drop-off points to keep you in the field. Shop all used hay equipment online at landmarkimp.com or stop by your local Landmark to experience the Landmark difference.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground beef, 15% off on aprons, 15% off cornhead beer, and buy one, get one 50% off on brats and hot dogs, limit 2. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town. RC's Boxing presents this Saturday at the Complex amateur fights with a little bare-knuckle bite. Some of Nebraska's best amateur boxing, along with a professional bare-knuckle bout between Jack Lawless Frericks and Jake Palmer, and a kickboxing bout between Demorio Dennis and Eric Murray Jr. Go get your tickets at thecomplexlincoln.com, where you can live stream this event as well. Doors open at 6 p.m. and first bout is at 7 p.m. this Saturday at the Complex at 1555 Yolanda Avenue.
Mike, I've been thinking our house could really use a makeover. How about new siding?
I've been thinking the same thing. Have you heard of James Hardy?
Yes! Sarah down the street had Roofing Service Company install James Hardy siding on their home, and they love it.
Roofing Service Company does have great reviews.
They took her through the design process and made everything super easy.
Roofing Service Company offers expert design and installation. Couple that with James Hardy's durable products and variety of colors, you and your family will love your exterior remodel. Just visit roofingservicecompany.com. That's roofingservicecompany.com.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs, from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? Do you need a lawyer you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion? The attorneys at Liberty Law understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Contact us for a free consultation by calling 877-42-LIBERTY. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help get you the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group. Trial attorneys you can trust.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Aloe Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela. They let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit aloefiber.com to switch today.
Breathe easier inside your home with Bryant. Eliminate allergens and odors and control humidity too. For a breath of fresh air, call 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Old School, sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman and Austin Oerman. Old School with Foreman and Oerman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Well, we're live again up here at Blur Tailgate at by the Hilton Omaha. We're here almost to 6, the corner of 12th and Cass. I was a couple of streets off yesterday. 18 TVs, live baseball games, seating options, and as you see, the LSU fans and Arkansas fans have not slowly but surely, taken over this blur tent. And we are brought to you by the Mercado, certified Piedmontese, special ingredients of Butcher Shop, 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, 85th and Old Cheney / Andermatt, and 168th and Maple, right up here in the O. A lot of traffic, a lot of things going on. I got some young baseball players walking around with the ticket headbands and trying to represent to the fullest.
You could throw heat right past them.
Yeah, they could. They could definitely. They definitely could probably strike me out with wiffle ball and stuff like that. Big news in the day of sports. There's never a dull moment. Obviously we had the Florida Panthers winning the NHL Stanley Cup last night. You got the OKC Thunder on the cusp of winning their first NBA championship. Then you had Coastal Carolina, who's letting you know they're not just a feel good story. And then now you have the LSU Tigers, the belle of the ball, going against, quite frankly, a little bit of a hometown feeling team in Arkansas, which LSU as well. It's their second home here in Omaha at the primetime game tonight. And then obviously you see what the energy has picked up. And this is coming off of just almost 24 hours ago of the exciting game that, from an era in Louisville. And then we flip to the Lakers, get sold for $10 billion, in-house sale, $10 billion. And so there's a lot going on. And, we're going to talk a little NFL news, Austin. And there's an interesting article, and this could go right into college as well. But it's an article that I sent you that the 9 or 10 players that it's either, prove it or lose it. And a lot of them are quarterbacks, right? You talk about Trevor Lawrence. You talk about Anthony Richardson. You talk about Bryce Young. You talk about Tyree Wilson. That was a defensive end, kind of out of the outer space pick by the Raiders at number 6 or something like that.
Really, the Raiders made a weird pick. Who would ever guess?
Right. And then look, Al Davis has passed away, but we're gonna keep your legacy on of picking a guy that shouldn't be going in the first round. You think about Burks there. At the same time, they still had AJ Brown with the Tennessee Titans that hasn't lived up to expectations. Has some good moments. Injuries have hurt it. You talk about Travis Etienne, who has been on the trade block potentially. Taken off the trade block, according to their coach. We'll see after he gets through a couple games in preseason or there's an injury. The first and foremost guy, and I think there's two ways that you get onto this list, right? There are actually 3. One, you're a guy like a height, weight. You have a good combine, but your underwear Olympic numbers don't match up to your play. But they say, oh, you know what? I always talk about the time when you do the scouting reports for the NBA draft next week. Well, he ain't shot well in college, but he got potential to. No, you ain't. You're not a good shooter. And so that's the number one. Number 2, you go number 1 in the draft, right? So 2 guys that I mentioned, Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young. And you could throw Anthony Richardson up there because he had a meteoric rise going from, showing a little flashes against Wisconsin at home to going obviously top 10, and he's a quarterback pick, right? And then kind of 2A and B, you're at a franchise that's had franchise quarterbacks in the past. That's where Anthony Richardson falls a little bit short. Yeah. That's where Pittsburgh Steelers quarterbacks have to deal with Terry Bradshaw and those guys. And then number 3, your play is so poor and there's no viable excuse for it, right? That's where Evan Neal comes in, the big offensive tackle who won every award at Alabama, started out at left tackle, went to right tackle. Now he is supposedly transitioning really, really good to left guard. Sometimes that does work out. You think about Brandon Sheriff that was drafted out of Iowa, ended up playing 10-plus years, and ended up pretty dominant at guard position. Robert Gallery, when he was picked for the Raiders, he ended up being really good as a guard. We talked about Tony Manders at times. I felt like he was a good player when he ended up with the Colts and really, ended his career well at guard. It's an interesting list because you could go through college players, as well because of the NIL factor, the star factor. But we'll stick with the pros. Of all the guys that we mentioned, who do you think has the best chance to play their way off of that list?
Well, I don't even know why Trevor Lawrence is on that list to begin with. I think Trevor's done enough.
Right.
From a statistical standpoint. There we go. I'm good. I've had one drink today. I'm fine. I promise. No, I think Trevor Lawrence is a legitimately good quarterback. Not quite top 10 good, but certainly, top half the league. I think, more than half the league would drop everything and trade for Trevor Lawrence if they had the opportunity. Now, yes, impact winning more.
Right.
Absolutely. But you play Jacksonville. You know that's not a winning organization. They
Right.
don't win down there in Jacksonville, right? Trevor needs to be better. He hasn't lived up to the number one hype in the same way that, say, Andrew Luck did before the retirement. But I have really very few issues or nits to pick with Trevor Lawrence. So to me, he's already off of that list. Bryce Young is just that. He's young, and he's in Carolina, started to show flashes.
It's kind of like Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
You're right,
But at least Carolina's made the Super Bowl a time or two. So they got that going for him. Anthony Richardson, I'm not going to waste words on that. There's a lot going on there. ETN, that's fine, but you also, he's a first-round running back. Running backs got a little bit more valuable. He hasn't been as good as I thought he was going to be, but again, it's Jacksonville.
Right.
So I would say ETN's probably the first guy that I really put in there. Treylon Burks, I was never as high on. I get what they were going for from Arkansas. So, but again, what has he had at quarterback in Tennessee? He hasn't helped his quarterbacks, but they haven't helped him out either. Evan Neal, I think, is a slam dunk one.
Yeah.
If the transition goes right, he's fine. And Trevor Penning, that's who's just a mess mentally, right? High head, so many stupid penalties. But again, Jay, this is a guy that was picked number 13 overall from the FCS ranks at Northern Iowa. That's to his credit that he got picked that high, but also maybe to his detriment, where he didn't play a lot of high-level college football. So that adjustment has been a little bit more difficult for him. So I think that's probably where I fall with those guys.
Yeah, I think Penny is the one of the things that we talked about, with Derek Queen in the NBA draft and where he's, potentially going to go is that, when you go on that hot streak or you get hot, then people were, I call it revisionist history. All they remember is what they saw last versus, some of the things that normally they knock guys down for competition level. And essentially all they did was kept talking themselves into drafting him. And then he kind of created this tough guy aura of always pushing guys after the play, going through the echo of the whistle. Mm-hmm. So they're like, okay, this is a guy that's, tough in leadership. Well, then when you get out there and you got to play for real against more natural and real tough guys, and they got to have, and then there's penalties that are called, and there's pressure because you're not at an all-star game playing against college kids. You're in a lot of trouble. You get in a lot of trouble, and then also you get almost to the point that where you get thrown out of town as far as Trevor Penning. So I think he's one of the guys that probably will be on that list, stay on that list, and won't be able to play himself off it. I also think that when you have, I wouldn't say off the field issues, but when you have confidence issues, and he is definitely in his head, and you're a first round pick, he actually needs a change of scenery. Mm-hmm. And you could think of Becton that went to Philly, right?
Washed, not
good,
injuries,
a little bit with Penny. He got into the guard position and got a new offensive line coach. And you know what? To be honest with you, if I'm Philly, that's a guy that I try to get. He'll bring some toughness. He has experience at guard. He needs a new set of eyes on him and a change of scenery. I like him going there, but I think he's a guy that's going to be on the list. But I think you're right. Trevor Lawrence shouldn't be on the list, I think, stat-wise, and then he just needs health-wise to stay healthy. I think
stop fumbling. That's a weird one.
And also that goes hand in hand with Trevor or Travis Etienne is that the offensive line wasn't an emphasis when you drafted them. They went skill position guys, what they still have.
They went the Bengals route.
They went the Bengals route, and they didn't have the guys that you needed that to really protect them in the short term. And I think he performed well, but I think he took way too many hits. But, the guy that also is Tyree Wilson is on there too, right? And in Burks. And this is the perfect example of the draft. You got NBA next week, and then you got all the times, with the NFL obviously next year. Is when you start talking yourself into a guy that hasn't been productive from the day he got on campus against good competition, that all of a sudden he's going to go against 10 times better competition at the highest level with 10, maybe 20 times more pressure, then all of a sudden and then you're a franchise that have no self-awareness, that you don't have anybody else around you besides Matt Crosby, and you can't even keep David or Derek Carr and Adams in there, and you just and then you had Mike Mayock and all them dudes in there, and you think you're going to bring this dude in there, and this is after you drafted Colin Farrell number 4 in Leatherwood in the top 12 as well. So you just have messed up all around, and you're going to pick a guy that isn't productive on top of it, Austin, the cherry on top, a long injury history.
Right.
So you got everything. So you went to the combine, flagged him for injuries, flagged him for play.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like a dude.
But we can fix it.
But you can fix him, and he can fix himself under high pressure. I think it was just never going to work out unless the stars aligned.
Unless everything.
Right. You're winning. Your stability at the GM position, your stability at the head coach, your stability at defensive coordinator, at the defensive line coach, and you're at the Raiders in Vegas. And it hasn't worked out at all. And then I think with Burks.
Before you get to Burks,
right.
on Tyree Wilson, it was set up relatively well for him with Max Crosby.
Yes,
opposite.
Easier than
simpler. Right.
Yeah.
Your job is just to get home.
Right.
That's all. Just take a split second of attention away from Max Crosby. Don't allow them to always slide two guys. Don't always let them just chip you with the tight end. Don't just get one-on-one with the right tackle. Do something for Max Crosby's sake. He's taking guys away from you.
Right.
And you still can't capitalize.
But here's also the problem, though, Austin, is that even though that he fits the bill, like in theory, in your mind, you talked yourself into it. His body type was a man without a position because he's not a true edge,
right?
But he's not a three technique.
Right.
He's kind of the classic tweener with in-between production.
Right.
So you're really, even if that's a simple job, you don't even have the physical traits to do so.
Right.
To be productive against a guy that's Max Crosby, who's 6'4" at that time, 255, 260. You need to be the guy that's kind of like the Jason Taylor, a little bit slimmer, that you are pass rush, where he's a power end, but that's Max Crosby already.
In a speed body.
Right.
You got to lean into one at that point.
Yeah.
If you're a tweener, if you're between positions, right, if you're, maybe you're a big safety or an average size linebacker, right, or you're a linebacker with safety athleticism, that's fine. That's versatility. They can move you around the field. But to your point, along the defensive line there, what are you going to be, that three? Are you going to be a stand-up outside guy?
Right.
If you're in between that, you got to pick one. You either got to really bulk up, get stronger, put your hand in the dirt more consistently, and then affect the run game, or lean on that speed and work to get yourself to a scheme where you can be that stand-up guy and win that way. But instead, he's just been who he's always been.
Right. And it's hard because with injury history, and you have to add maybe 15 to 20 pounds, and then you got to go inside and play a more technically sound position, meaning that there's a lot more action in there. And I'll say this: when I went from outside linebacker, Will, or like a Sam linebacker to middle in the NFL, where essentially you got two guys that generally can block you on the outside, tight end, tackle, fullbacks come in. That's every position, right?
You see them.
When you move into the middle, everybody can block you, including the receivers. So the action is faster. You have to be technically sound, and it's a thinking position along with brute force.
Well, that's why your neck hurts. Your head's always on a swivel.
Right, yeah. And I was always thinking I could run through, 330-pound guys. It worked out sometimes, but not enough. And so now where he's at a position, he's asked to prove himself, and all these guys have the same traits to get on here. And listen, they're good players to get in here, but when you're drafted so high, the expectations, which is more emotionally attached, which is obviously attached to the financial, investment, is too high for some guys. And we'll go to Burks right there, the receiver position. Now, here's how you get on that list of the receiver. Guys around you produce.
Right.
People don't care.
No.
People that they're saying to everybody else, they were like, oh, so-and-so produced. Michael Pittman Jr. Produced. But he actually had a quarterback, or at least a couple guys. Right? You had Phillip Rivers and all those guys.
Matt Ryan.
Right, Matt Ryan. You ain't have nobody who can play dead. You had your boy Will Levis, who showed some flashes. Then you drafted
Tannehill before that.
Tannehill, and then he shut it down, collected a check. And then you had Willis that came in, and they really never gave him a chance, and it was reluctantly. And then you have some injury history. And then you have coaches on the way out that are actually coaching to save their jobs or just kind of just throwing up the white flag. So I think, if Callahan down there as a head coach can get something out of him to where he can actually maybe turn into a viable number 2, even though he was picked to be a number 1 and maybe on a mid-level contract, a second extension, I think he could do well. But the only place that I see that he could actually do it, who does this all the time, is your boy Andy Reid.
Sure.
He's done it with Juju Smith-Schuster. He's done it with tried to do it with DeAndre Hopkins towards the end of his career, even though DeAndre Hopkins is a Hall of Famer. He's done it with all different. He's done it with now Hollywood Brown. He's kind of reinvigorated his career, where you use these guys and have them do what they do best. But the biggest thing, he's got to be available. He's got to really also find somebody to help him with his route running. And then the technical things will actually accentuate his physical skills, because you're thinking about 6'4", 215, straight line speed.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that you would like to kind of replicate is in Philly, A.J. Brown, and that's where A.J. Brown was, where he's actually 6'2", 225. So now you're seeing a guy that's done it, but you got to get the technical stuff down before you try to be explosive player that you hoped you wish for.
Well, and I think the thing for Treylon Burks will be, number one, the quarterback, right? We'll see what Cam Ward can do for him and vice versa. But, can he be the situational pass catcher? Bigger, boxier guy, like I said, straight line speed, not great out of breaks. Can he be the, we just got a turnover, we got the ball around midfield,
take the top off,
around the guy? Or can he work on getting more technical where he's a third down receiver, right? Bigger body, thicker frame. Just go box a corner out, on third and medium, right?
Yeah.
You run 7 yards, turn around, catch the ball. It'll be there. I think he's going to have to find a skill that he's good at, because right now you can't point to anything that he does consistently well better than anyone else on that team or in the league. Well,
and also he's active.
Right? Congratulations, Treylon, you did that in Las Vegas.
I think he got it backwards.
Yeah.
He came in partying, doesn't understand you only get to party when you start to become productive. But we'll see what happens. I mean, look, I think sometimes guys get on these lists unfairly, and it's clickbait.
Let me throw another guy out to you, because I saw his name come up today. I want to make sure I have my facts straight here. Come on, type in. So Alec Pierce with the Colts. He's played 3 years instead of just 2 years. He's played 16, 17, and 16 games. So he's entering the final, year before they pick it up or not. I saw some people saying that that's a guy who, again, does one thing really well, takes the top off, he'll win jump balls down the field. That's a guy that, has been up and down in Indy, struggled with drops a little bit as a rookie, and then all the Anthony Richardson problems we've talked about. That's a guy that does have that one dynamic element of his game, where I saw, Nate Tice with, I think, Yahoo or The Athletic, one of the two, throw out there, if you're Kansas City or you're Baltimore,
I was just saying
the Colts, don't bring him back because he hasn't developed into that, well-rounded number two behind Pittman. Or they say, hey, we're going to commit to Josh Downs, who's a little bit younger, and they let Pierce walk. That's a guy that these top teams can say he has a trait. He has something he does definably well. We can go get him and bring him in to play a role, where if Treylon Burks, even if that's his role, take the top off, he hasn't shown he can do that consistently.
Yeah, Treylon Burks, you got to think a lot of his highlights were, I call it jailbreak screens, kind of like punt return type of pass options and plays for him underneath screens and crossing routes where you're just essentially running away from the leverage of the coverage. And when you think about Pierce, a guy that can take the top off, you allow him to be more efficient, right? You got to think where with Kansas City, what they did with Macklin, getting him from Philly a few years ago, guys that take the top off, which then allows Patrick Mahomes to be that guy. And so it's just one of those things that, guys need to get better, but that's a great, comparison to a guy that actually can do something that you can't replicate. Being able to actually have game speed to be able to get things, taken off the top and do things like that is something that's, people that run fast at the combine but don't run fast in the game. He runs fast in the game, and then obviously he's able to catch it, and he also is able to catch it in traffic. And you think about it, it was actually what Green Bay had envisioned with Watson until he obviously got hurt and actually started to develop that skill once he started getting over the hamstring issues and all that. And so it's one of those things that, you're a young player coming in, you got to make sure you know what you're doing. And, I was saying before, you brought up Pierce, sometimes guys get on those lists unfairly, right? And what happens is guys just sit around, and the easy thing is, you would pick so-and-so, you don't have any stats, you're on there. Yeah. And like for instance, real quick before we go to break, right? It's like Bryce Young. Like, he got picked number one. The coach and the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator didn't want him, but the owner and the owner's wife wanted him, right? Yeah. So now you're going into a no-win situation. Well, then they fire the coach like 4 or 5 games into it. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. The new coach didn't want to play him.
Well, went to Andy bleeping Dalton.
Yeah, and was like, we got our guy. Andy Dalton started to do Andy Dalton things.
Well, got in the car accident.
Mm-hmm. But then he played one good game.
Yeah.
And then the problem was solved. But then his play started to decline. Well, then now we got to go back to the guy.
We saw that same thing in Indy.
Right.
Richardson to Flacco, back to Richardson.
Right, but then you like, okay, this guy actually is good. Mm-hmm. They were talking about cutting him last year, and so I think it's one of those. But now he's on the list just because he went number one. Nobody's taking in the discombobulation ownership wise, right? And there's nothing wrong with the family being in it, but it seems like the owner's wife is kind of making some football decisions more than the owner, and the owner really shouldn't. You got a GM now. Dan Morgan, I think, is going to bring more of a football edge to it, which is great, but he's just getting there.
Right.
He's cleaning up a lot of mess over stuff that was there and set in path by the owner, which people think, oh, well, the owner started was going to build a big montage facility in South Carolina, but left them, with the holding the back. And then you hire a coach and fireman, Frank Wright, who's respected throughout the league, and you don't think it trickles down to the locker room? It does. And so now you got Bryce Young on that list, and this guy that wrote the list probably didn't even think, okay, well, let's just pause on that, because actually the last 4 or 5 games he played, he actually looked like the Bryce Young with that Nick Saban in the leadership that everybody, allotted for him to be number one. And so, the list is the list. It's good talking points. But we're going to take a quick break, come back, another short segment. Jay Foreman, Austin Oerman, old school, the new school way. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Oerman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground beef, 15% off on aprons, 15% off Cornhead beer, and buy one, get one 50% off on brats and hot dogs, limit 2. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? Do you need a lawyer you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion? The attorneys at Liberty Law understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Contact us for a free consultation by calling 877-42-LIBERTY. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help get you the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group. Trial attorneys you can trust.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. RC's Boxing presents this Saturday at the Complex amateur fights with a little bare-knuckle bite. Some of Nebraska's best amateur boxing, along with a professional bare-knuckle bout between Jack Lawless Frericks and Jake Palmer, and a kickboxing bout between Demorio Dennis and Eric Murray Jr. Go get your tickets at thecomplexlincoln.com, where you can live stream this event as well. Doors open at 6 p.m. and first bout is at 7 p.m. this Saturday at the Complex at 1555 Yolanda Avenue.
Mike, I've been thinking our house could really use a makeover. How about new siding?
I've been thinking the same thing. Have you heard of James Hardy?
Yes! Sarah down the street had Roofing Service Company install James Hardy siding on their home, and they love it.
Roofing Service Company does have great reviews.
They took her through the design process and made everything super easy.
Roofing Service Company offers expert design and installation. Couple that with James Hardy's durable products and variety of colors, you and your family will love your exterior remodel. Just visit roofingservicecompany.com. That's roofingservicecompany.com.
The Lincoln Light Guy salutes the men and women of our military and veterans for the sacrifices they've made. Keep them in your thoughts, prayers, and letters from home until these trying times are over. Our troops are fighting hard around the clock to defend our great country and keep freedom alive worldwide. For this, we salute them and may God bless America. This from Lincoln Light Guy. Locally owned and operated, installing and servicing permanent, holiday, and special occasion lighting for your home or business.
At Valentino's, we're on a mission for tradition. On every slice, for every bite. Golden baked crust, cooked to perfection every time. Savory sweet sauce that's made from our own secret recipe. Loaded with the perfect amount of fresh toppings and melty mozzarella cheese. It's the tradition that Nebraskans have come to love. From game day to every day. Valentino's. Taste the tradition.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at gainatrucking.com.
Breathe easier inside your home with Bryant. Eliminate allergens and odors and control humidity too. For a breath of fresh air, call 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
At Fairway Meat Market, you're family. And as part of the family, they want to save you money on your meat and groceries. Fairway has fresh cut meats, seafood, cheese, wine, and spirits, and a friendly staff that's always ready to help you find what you need. Stop by Fairway Meat Market today to plan your weekly meals in the Rockledge Square Shopping Center, just south of 84th and Van Dorn.
I tried to hide my cigarette smoking. Then I was rushed into emergency surgery to repair the damage smoking did to my heart. It shocked everyone because they thought I was healthy. Yet because I smoked, I had a severe heart condition that nearly killed me. My tip is, you may be able to hide your smoking from the world, but you can't hide from the damage smoking does to your body.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Oerman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Well, we're back. Jay Foreman, Austin Oerman, live out here at about 12th and Cass Street. Blur tailgate before the rematch. Arkansas Razorbacks with Van Horn leading the charge against the LSU Bayou Tigers, essentially the Omaha Tigers. A lot of feel to this. Now, obviously on ESPN, we see Cam Nozo, who the local product, I think, from Millard West, right? Millard South. Was more than excited. You wonder if he did have everybody, the whole baseball team, sleep over. They'd be in the garage and all. It's a hot sleepover, but you know what it is. It's a good time to have a hometown feel. And then obviously, sheds light, like we talked about yesterday with recruiting and football-wise, that there's great baseball players here all across the nation, both at the JUCO levels and obviously major Power 4 levels, doing work and representing the state of Nebraska well. And with that being said, obviously Nebraska's, finishing up this month of June, that essentially is probably I'm assuming they take off July, before camp, because June is, I'm sure they don't spend a lot of time at home because they got to go on the road recruiting. They got camps galore, it seems like. I think they got camps going on right now. And then you got official visits. And then, so there's some team camps and exclusive camps as well. Lost a recruit in their 2026 class, and we talked off air, and I wanted to get your opinion, Austin. I wonder with this new house settlement where you can get your pre-December early signing period contract or offers from any school once you commit, will you see a lot more decommits and being back in the pool to drive up the price, right? And here's what I mean. I could be committed to school A, decommit, jump back in the pool with all in the back of my mind. I really like Nebraska or whatever school I decommitted from, but I could go back and field a couple offers and say, hey, look, man, we were really good at business is business, no hard feelings, right? Right? But this is what the offer is right here. And it might be significantly more initially, or the structure of it might be more appealing with the rev sharing, so forth and so on. And also, I would say, look, you got me for more than 1 year versus an NIL deal. You think you're going to see more decommits and then try to get back into the revenue sharing pool to up the ante in certain situations?
That's going to be so interesting to monitor because on the one hand, I think, yes, there could be a flood of them, guys that maybe don't know what they're getting from their school and won't know hypothetically until August 1st. You assume the agents are talking with the schools, they probably shouldn't be at this point. I think for some guys that are maybe at the top of the class, right?
Sure.
Maybe your top 2, 3, 4 guys.
Yeah.
Maybe they do. But then let's say that those top 2, 3, 4 are all considering decommitting. Is it better business to tell the school that you're committed to, I'm just going back in for business?
Yeah.
Or is it better to say, I'm going back into the portal,
and we'll
I'm
see
still
what happens.
good,
Yeah.
but it's on you to make sure we're still good, right? To not leave the door wide open, but also not cracked shut.
Yeah, I think both are you're doing the same thing, right? As long as you're having some clear communication. But I think the schools now got to understand it's business on both sides, right? And sometimes if you have an uncommittable offer or you have a committable offer and you have to pull it, like the whole sense of like, look at last year with Daniel Kaling was coming in as our quarterback in the class, and here comes Dylan. You got to communicate with him.
Right.
This is where you're at. We'll still honor it, but understand this is the dude that's coming in that's going to lead our program potentially as long as everything go right. And so
the flip side of that then is the bottom 15, 20 guys in the class. Probably going to be stupid to do that.
Right. You got to know, instead of the 2 or 3 guys at every class, I think the top 4, maybe 6 guys, depending on the position group, can do it.
Well, it's just like free agency in any other league, right? The top guys set the demand, set the market. They can flex a little bit. The other people, have to have agency and look out for themselves, but won't be able to, swing the same stick.
The demand comes from what? The highest guys we've seen it over this last couple cycles of NIL across the line, defense and offensive linemen, offense and defensive linemen. So that's why I was saying, top 4 to 6, maybe even 8, if it's a really good class of guys. And there's a need for guys for young offensive linemen because there's not a lot out there in the transfer portal.
Right.
So you got to take advantage of it. And I don't see a problem with it, but I just, the guys got to be strategic, about it. And, the one thing as we move on, whether, we'll talk about the young quarterback from Millard South going, committing or decommitting from Iowa State, going to, Alabama, or committing. Jet Tamala committing to Alabama, and then obviously we had a young man decommit from Nebraska. I just think it's at the point now, you can't take anything personal. I think once the guys get off the plane, you got to make the experience best for them, and obviously you try to curtail every kind of recruiting visit, I'm assuming, to them, because everybody has different needs and different, what they going to look and try to see. And you put forth your best effort, and you definitely want them to commit, and you're definitely invested. But if they say no or they decide to decommit, you can't take it personally, because I think these kids are really, really fickle, and you never know reason why or who's advising them to it. Now, I do think this, house agreement will allow, a little bit of that to slow down. But I think the more that you just go as business as usual, I think that there's other players that you would then lean on your development. Then knowing that you can go get another guy that will take advantage of this opportunity. It might take a little bit longer, but then you got a little bit longer relationship where you can kind of move through the process together. I think in the end, your head will be more, you won't be treading water. You'll be more swimming with your head above water, looking for bigger and better pastures because, like I said, whether it's with Jet Tamala or any other player that's at another university or potentially could be in the portal, is not like when I got recruited. It was you had to go hell or high water to transfer, and you're taking a big risk to sitting out a year. These guys are in the portal more frequently. Now, it should slow down now, but you never know when that second go-round will go, either at present school as far as, the head coach, or if you're a coordinator that had a really good rapport with them, and you get a head coaching job and say things don't work out well wherever you're at. The perfect example is Caleb Williams. When he went on his pre-draft visit with the Vikings, he loved it with Kevin O'Connell. Now he got drafted, by Chicago, but don't think that Kevin O'Connell and him and that relationship won't cross paths later on in either one of their careers. And so it's no different than here with these high school kids. And it was big news that Jet Tamala decommitted from Iowa State and committed to Bama. But when you look at how, first of all, he's a multi-sport athlete. He's competitive, and so he's a legit 6'4". He's a really good athlete. I think his dad played college basketball, so he's a tough, mentally tough kid. He's a competitive kid. He's gotten better. He has a ton of potential. Product of the Steve Warren or Warren Academy, and then he's gotten better at every step, right? And then as he's been out there on a national basis, as far as jumping on the scene with the state championship, then obviously committing to Iowa State, then obviously going out and doing all these camps and 7-on-7 and all that stuff. He's essentially won the pre-draft process for an athlete that finishes up their eligibility at Nebraska.
Right.
Okay. You go down to the Senior Bowl, you do well. You interview well at the Senior Bowl. There's a position of need, obviously, always at quarterback. And then you go to the combine and you throw well, and then everything else lines up for it. Then you go from, say, a top 45 pick. Now they're talking about you're going, maybe number 1 or whatever. And so for him, it's probably no hard feelings against, Coach Campbell. And I'm sure Coach Campbell was probably disappointed, but I think it's just part of the business. And Alabama's a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to commit and then be the quarterback in the class. And so now, like we said yesterday, you can, everybody's like, well, what happened at Nebraska and whatever, they learned from it is one thing. Now it's up to Nebraska, whoever they have, and the players on the roster to make those decisions right. But then more importantly for these young kids, they're getting opportunities outside of the state of Nebraska is make their decisions right. You can't always prove somebody wrong. You got to start thinking about proving somebody right, and it's on both ends. You can, Matt Rule, I think, said at some point of time, if Nebraska doesn't win, blame him. You got to allow him to recruit who he wants to recruit, and he's recruited them. But you also have Dayton in the class who they believe in, and then you got Trey Taylor coming in. So it's kind of a little bit of circumstances because there's only one quarterback.
Right.
And nobody's going to want to come in. All these guys are highly rated. I don't need to go somewhere where somebody else is, and it's just, circumstances that sometimes just don't work out.
I'm going to make a bold prediction. I say sarcastically.
Yeah.
I don't think Nebraska has more than 1 year where TJ Lateef, Dayton Raiola, and Trey Taylor are all on the same roster. I know that's how it's set up right now.
Right.
That's your succession plan. Obviously, Dylan is there as well. But
right.
That's just how the quarterback position works.
Yeah,
Either you're the guy or you're not the guy. Of that group, I need to see the most from Dayton.
Yeah.
To be completely honest.
Yeah.
So, if Nebraska had wanted to take another quarterback in that class, would not have blamed him in the slightest.
Sure.
If they believe in him, great.
Yeah.
You're playing the off-field politics, you have to.
Right.
We have to be honest. That's what got
it's no
Dylan
different it's no different than Arch Manning.
Absolutely. You have to play the game on the field and off the field.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to, you're on the cutting room floor, one of those guys will be the one that takes the snaps for you.
Yeah.
You can want to play the game as much as you can, right now, but then you also have to have a big picture view in mind too, because Nebraska, I guarantee it, in the next 3 years is going to pick up a transfer portal quarterback that they could see starting games for them. I don't think they see Marcos Davila starting games for them this year,
right?
But I think in the next 3 years, guess what? Everyone is taking transfers. It's still going to be a thing. Nebraska will take a transfer quarterback. You want the guys that you recruit to develop and be your guys.
Yeah.
I think every one of them has a chance to be a guy at Nebraska, be the starting quarterback for a year or two at Nebraska. But you're not going to have a 100% hit rate. It just doesn't happen that way. So you're going to have to hedge your bets somewhere along the lines. One of those guys is going to fall off, want to be closer to home, transfer somewhere else. You got to be prepared for that.
Yeah, coordinator switch, girlfriend switch, whatever the factors are, that has nothing to do with anything that you can control. You could have it to where I forget the quarterback, or actually there was the receiver that played at North Carolina, where I think he had both of his parents passed away, so he wanted to move back home. And then there was Jay Bellis was talking about they needed to let him play, and eventually he did.
Yeah.
Or you look at it like back in the, before the transfer portal really got started. Now, there were some off-the-field issues with the baseball team at Georgia and Justin Fields, but Jake Fromm was there.
Right.
And then he ended up at Ohio State. And then obviously the domino effect. And you got to think Joe Burrow ended up at LSU. The quarterback hit rate is probably the worst bet possible out there, because there's so many other factors that go into playing major college football quarterback, the position, that you can't evaluate in high school.
Right. No.
Pressure.
No shot.
Competition. Do you like to get hit? Are you competitive? Are you a leader? Can you lead young men? Can you deal with success? Can you deal with all the things that come with Nebraska, being patted on the back and talked about as one of the best quarterbacks of all time before you take a snap, or best linebackers of all time before I even make an all conference team. Can you deal with that? You know what I mean?
Right.
And can you be realistic and then continue to move forward, to continue to develop, continue to add to your game and all that stuff. So I think and that's everywhere. You got to think, playing quarterback at Georgia and Alabama, that's a real I mean, that's pressure, right? And that's not pressure. That's not same pressure as Jay Foreman taking the field at, Eden Prairie High School and trying to, leave a legacy at the running back position and all that other stuff. And so I think it's just
which you did, mission accomplished.
I did, but it's JD Spellman didn't have the same type of pressure as that you got to take when you play quarterback at Nebraska, and that's part of the position.
Right.
That's why it's the hardest position to hit on. And there is other factors that go into it, whether it's a legacy kid or it's a legacy kid with the connection with the coach, right? Or coaches. You got to think now you're starting to see players, go places where they have a connection with coaches at college. Like, like Phillip Rivers has a son coming up, and he's going to definitely be on the cusp of going to probably North Carolina State. You think you see Ryan Clark's son, who has a relationship with Marcus Freeman. He's at Notre Dame, so forth, and Plaxico Burress and all that stuff. So now you're starting to see guys
Plaxico was Michigan State, right?
Yes, but he has a relationship with Ryan Clark, which now his kid is potentially going to go to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And all the familiarity thing, right? Where Larry Fitzgerald Jr. and his son, they were all on the same visit. All that stuff is there, right? And so you just gotta now, in whether it's a legacy by blood on the field or legacy by relationship, it's gonna, part of it is happening. And you gotta think, before we go to break, you talk about Arch Manning. The guy he took a few snaps, right? Showed a little bit of life, but really he has odds to win the Heisman. So that right there is just that is bloodline. That is assumptive that he's going to be an all-star player. But when you watch him at times, especially coming out of high school, you're like, I don't know so much. Now you're getting paid $4 million for 2 years. Now that's where the pressure comes in, and can he deal with it? Seems like he's just fine. Big shout out to Arch Manning, was down in the hood representing in St. Louis, the home of Kenny Wilhite. But, I think that's just part of it, man. And so, I know Nebraska fans like to live and die with everything in Nebraska. My whole thing is the most thing I get invested in, and I'm not even really invested because I'm not playing or coaching, is all this stuff is great. Only thing I care about is whether you win or not. That's the only thing that matters. Because as we've seen teams that weren't thought of to even win a game in Indiana, or 2 years ago, Northwestern, or Indiana has a coach coming in selling a bunch of Wolf tickets that a ton of coaches have already done, knock it out of the park. Or you see teams like Florida State this year that was a shoo-in, bet-wise, to make the college football playoffs. Their season was over after they lost to Boston College on that Thursday night. So one thing that's over is this segment. Appreciate everybody's listening. Jay Foreman, Austin Oerman. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Oerman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Saturday. Eagle Raceway is open for a full season of dirt track racing action every Saturday night. Don't miss the epic battles on the high banks of Eagle Raceway each Saturday between the Nebraska Septic Sprint Cars, Nebraska Lottery Modifieds, Avid Realty Sport Mods, Valentino's Hobby Stocks, and A1 Iron Stock Cars. Let's go racing. Eagle Raceway, just 10 miles east of Lincoln on O Street. Check out the full schedule at eagleraceway.com.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Your Lincoln forecast for today: a chance of showers and thunderstorms. Otherwise, partly sunny skies with an afternoon high near 82. Tonight, mainly clear skies and light winds, low around 62. And tomorrow, lots of sunshine with a light breeze. It'll be hot with an afternoon high near 93. I'm meteorologist Kyle Flecker for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground beef, 15% off on aprons, 15% off Cornhead beer, and buy one, get one 50% off on brats and hot dogs, limit 2. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
Play ball! Haymarket Park is buzzing with excitement this summer. Grab your crew and get in on the fun. Be sure to catch all the daily specials and promotions this season, like Thirsty Thursday, Fireworks Friday, Souvenir Saturday, Family Fun Day Sunday, plus special events and discounts all summer long. Don't miss out on the action as the Lincoln Salt Dogs take on their biggest rivals and knock the ball out of the park. Visit saltdogs.com and see this week's promotions and grab your tickets.
This is Bill Mitchner, Executive Director of Lincoln Lighthouse. Did you know Lighthouse provides multiple programs for students such as one-on-one tutoring and mentoring, as well as pro-social skill exercises, while providing them a nourishing meal and a safe space during all months of the year, even during school breaks? Learn more or contribute to Lighthouse at lincolnlighthouse.org today.
The Lincoln Light Guy salutes the men and women of our military and veterans for the sacrifices they've made. Keep them in your thoughts, prayers, and letters from home until these trying times are over. Our troops are fighting hard around the clock to defend our great country and keep freedom alive worldwide. For this, we salute them and may God bless America. This from Lincoln Light Guy. Locally owned and operated, installing and servicing permanent, holiday, and special occasion lighting for your home or business.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning. Now in our new time, we're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
Early break.
Getting after it, which is
So
good.
you're getting coffeed up at the mill?
Yeah, so I walk over to people.
Would you be willing to come on every day? Is there something that you'd be able to do?
You know what? Actually, I got a lot of things to say. You know,
Yeah,
so
if you please every Friday, at least before a game, Coach, we'd love to have you. It'd be a riot.
With Steve Sipple, Jake Sorensen, and Bill Bush from 6 to 9 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Back to old school with Foreman and Oerman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Well, no Foreman anymore, just Oerman. Jay had to dip, so I'm Austin Oerman. I'll take you home over the last 5 minutes or so. For us from Blur, of course, the party will continue without us for the next couple of days. They are here through June 21st. Doors open from 10:30 a.m. to midnight. You can get your tickets online at blurevents.com/Omaha. So for the rest of the week, these tickets are going to be $84, $114, or $134. But on Saturday, the 21st, first day of the championship series, you can get packages for $64, $94, or $114. And my friends, let me tell you, it is all worth it. The food is phenomenal. The drinks are cold and flowing. The staff is among the best, if not the best. In fact, I would probably call them the best. That we love our partnership, really appreciate working with the great people out here at Blur. It's a block away from the stadium. If you walk down 12th Street, you are at Charles Schwab Field on the right field side. Get here, enjoy your time at Blur, whether it's before or after the game. Cannot recommend it any more highly. Let's talk some Royals. They got first pitch against the Texas Rangers coming up in just over about an hour or so. 7:05 first pitch, 75 minutes, I'll say then, for first pitch for the Royals and the Rangers down there at Globe Life Field in Arlington. Royals won at 6-1 last night. 6 runs on 8 hits for the Royals. They struck for 3 runs in the top of the first inning and then put up a single run in the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. The story last night had to be Salvador Perez. 3 for 4 on the night for El Capitan. Drove in 4 runs. He had 2 home runs, a 2-run shot, a solo shot, and an RBI double as well. And it came after a day off. And this has been the thing for the Royals and Salvador Perez for a very long time, is that Salvador Perez is one of the most important players, one of the best players on the team, even still in his, age 35 season officially. He's still important to this team. He's still hitting in the middle of that lineup, still provides a bunch of thump when he's going right. But he's been on the struggle bus this year. If you look at Salvador Perez's line, he's batting .240, slugging .395. His OPS plus is an 88, which is worse than league average. He's gone deep 8 times, which is third on the team behind Vinny Pasquantino and Bobby Witt Jr. Salvi also has the second most doubles on the team with 18. And his numbers have gotten better over the last few weeks, especially because there for a while, Salvi was one of the unluckiest hitters in baseball, and I still think it hasn't fully evened out. He's still, I think, in the bottom 5 in terms of what his expected stats are and what he's actually, been providing right now. But what we've seen for a few years is that a guy like Salvador Perez, who takes pride in being in the lineup every day, especially at catcher there for the bulk of his career, it was hard to take him out of the lineup because he was so good, both offensively and defensively. But Salvi's lost a lot of value defensively. His fielding run value, according to StatCast, he's been worth about -2 runs for the Royals so far this year. 25th percentile is not great. His bat is still fine, but certainly not elite and not enough to cover for any decline in the defense. The issues are the same. The positives are the same with Salvador Perez. He's the same player he's been for a while. But the Royals have instead of taking him out of the lineup, have given him the opportunity to not just play catcher, but also to play first base and to DH, right? He's a righty batter, Salvador Perez is. So somewhat they've been platooning him with Vinny Pasquantino, who swings the bat from the left side. Vinny's really been hot over these last few weeks as well. But, of course, what you have to factor in is that Jack Caglianone's natural position is first base. That's where he was playing when the Royals drafted him out of the University of Florida. And I think he's played one game there. I think he started one game there. He's gotten a couple spot appearances there based on defensive changes in late innings as well. But at some point, the Royals are going to have a conversation, a tactful one, absolutely, with Salvi, to say, hey, Salvi, we got to do what's best for the franchise. We got to do what's best for the team. We can't keep running you out there every day, especially when we have data and we have numbers that prove just how better you are when you have a day off. It's commendable. It's respectable that Salvi wants to be in the lineup every day. He's still a relatively important piece for the Royals. But at this point in his career, again, at age 35, Salvi is not the guy that needs to be anchoring that lineup in the middle every day, right? If he gets one day off, maybe 2 days off a week, that goes a long way. Where, sure, maybe he would fight it for a while, but if you can sell it as this is what's best for the team, and we're not just asking you to be a team player, but we have, legitimate evidence, legitimate stats that show just how much better you are after the occasional day off, and he goes for that, that's going to help the Royals out tremendously. Get Cags more reps at first base. Get Freddie Fermin, more playing time. That's a guy that I think is, top 10 on the Royals in wins above replacement so far this year, at least borderline, right? Freddie Fermin has been a solid piece for the Royals for the last few years now, despite being really a non-prospect making his way through the system. So I think with the Royals, there's got to be a way for them to have that conversation with Salvi and not bring about an abrupt end to the Salvador Perez era. Of course, there were some trade conversations a couple of years ago that the Royals didn't bite on. He's a guy that deserves respect. He deserves the benefit of the doubt of a conversation. But because you love, you respect, you appreciate Salvi so much, you don't want to see it end with him, going down the toilet. You want to end his career in a way that is still, a positive, that has him going out as close to on top as he possibly can. And I'm really curious to see how it is the Royals navigate that. The other thing the Royals are going to have to navigate is Cole Reagans. An update from Ann Rogers, the Royals beat writer for MLB.com. She tweets, a second opinion that Cole Reagans received yesterday confirmed the rotator cuff strain. He's shut down from throwing for 4 weeks from when he got hurt, so he's about 2 weeks in at this point. He'll be reevaluated after 4 weeks to determine if he can start his progression throwing. We'll monitor that. We got Royals and Rangers coming your way, 7:05 first pitch, 6:25 pregame. For Jay, for Strick, I'm Austin. That'll do it for us from Blur. Thanks to them for their hospitality. Really appreciate them. I'm going to hang out here a little bit, probably watch the start of the LSU-Arkansas game. Be back in studio for shows Thursday and Friday. Have a good rest of your night, y'all. Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground